galactic awakenings. How old do you have to be when you remember your soul plan as a galactic emissary here on Earth? Well, it can be later in the game, as we're going to find out today with the gorgeous Gail McLeod, who, as it says in the bio here, learnt to fly a spaceship. So we're going to have fun with Gail today. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network. Wrong thing again. Been doing that a lot lately. The UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Syndicated radio on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, coming out of New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, and streaming on many platforms all across the world. Joe tells me we're hitting about 120 countries. And we're going to fly around the cosmos today with the gorgeous Gail McLeod. Welcome to the show, Gail.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, Gail and I have been yakking for the last 25 minutes or so. I said to her, I don't know much about your story at all. I haven't read her book because she's got a book out. I'm going to find out today with the rest of you. But she's filled me in a bit on her story. So I've got a little bit of a clue of what's been going on. And, look, we've got all these people online. Let me see. The lovely, India, Heidi, Lauren, cooking and watching, she says. Hi, ladies. Vladdy, g'day, Vladdy. Son of what? I love that name, Son of what? Hello. Lots of people online. Oh, that's nice. We've got a fab audience today. And the beautiful Heidi and Wendy. I think a lot of the audiences come from your channel because we're streaming on Gail's YouTube channel as well as mine. Mine is called Karen Swain Blissful Beings. If you want to see more of the guests, the people that are tuning in from Gail, and also the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network has a YouTube channel. We're streaming on there, and Twitch, Odyssey, Rumble. We're streaming on lots of different platforms today. But let me tell you a little bit about Gail. As a communicator between the seen and unseen, Dr. Gail is a psychic medium specializing in alien or extraterrestrial encounters, bridging the gap between humans and aliens, or, the new name for them now is NHIs, non-human intelligence. We can't call them aliens anymore. We've got to call them NHIs.
They changed these names.
Yeah. With her ability to communicate with both worlds. She's the author of How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship. Now, where is that? There it is.
I got it right here. Thank you.
How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship. I just love that. And she tells me she's had a full career. She has been a nurse and a chiropractor. She's been in the medical industry. And she tells me just, before we went live today, that it hasn't been something, this galactic contact hasn't been something that's been conscious with her whole life. It really only happened about 5 years ago. So let's hear your story. I'd love to know what happened. And maybe a bit of your backstory too, working as a nurse and a chiropractor. You've been in the medical field for a long time.
Yeah, I've been in the medical field practically all my life. I was a nurse. I worked in the operating room, specializing in neurosurgery and open heart surgery. I went back to school, become a chiropractor, and opened my own practice. And then later in life, my mother had passed away and my father developed dementia. So I had to retire from both those careers to help him. And after he passed, which was in 2019, we went in with COVID in 2020. It was the first time I wasn't taking care of anybody. I was like, nobody take care of 2020. Here I am going in by myself with my dog and my cat. And that was it. And so actually I had 2 dogs at that time and a cat. And so I thought, I'm going to try this meditation stuff. And that's exactly the words I use, meditation stuff. I didn't know much about it, but I thought, why not try it? So I did. I started meditating. I started off like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I would go on YouTube and find some meditation. Anyway, I have always been I've always been a medium in denial all my life, because I've always been connected. I always have known when energies were in houses, like ghosts, and like I had a wolf living under my bed as a child, but everybody dismissed it and just to say, oh, you're crazy, like a lot of us have our family members say.
Yeah.
And so I was one of those, so I didn't think anything of it until when I started actually I would say I knew people had passed before I contacted my dad, because I knew when my uncle had passed, I knew he smelled like cigarettes when he came around. And when my mother passed, she smelled like scupping on grapes or watermelon when she came around. So I knew, but I didn't talk to people about it because they were going to tell me I was crazy. So that's what I was expecting. But then when my father passed and I connected with him, I started seeing him. It just wasn't a smell or hearing or anything. I could see him. And at that time, I didn't even know what the third eye was, that I could see him that way. And so we developed a relationship. I still wasn't talking about it, meeting him, and we would sit on a bench beside a river and discuss family matters and and money, all sorts of different things we would talk about. And then one day, sitting there on that bench with him talking, an angel flew around him and was in my face, and she was presenting me with a bracelet, and she was handing it to me just like this. It freaked me out so badly. I jumped off. I was meditating on the couch. I jumped off that couch. I didn't know what happened. I mean, because her light was so bright and filled up the whole room, and she was beautiful. She was white and blonde hair and absolutely gorgeous, but it freaked me out. I didn't know what to do, and I was not in the metaphysical world at that time. So I only had one friend, her name is Meg, that I knew dabbled in the metaphysical world. So I sheepishly went to her. I had been working with her for about 15 years. And so I went to her and told her what happened. And she started laughing at me. She goes, "You're going through a spiritual awakening." And I'm going, okay. I didn't know what even to ask questions about that. So I'm walking out her house, Googling spiritual awakening, because I had no idea what that was. And so from then on, I started by sitting at the bench with my dad. The next thing that came was an extraterrestrial or ET or alien, whatever you're comfortable calling them. And she was a little blue being with it looked like a jello head on top of her head, and it jiggled while she talked. And she talked a lot. She was petite, and she was so friendly and so nice. And she sat down beside me and just talked about nothing. And she was just running, and I'm just staring at her going, and looking at my dad going, why isn't he running her away or doing something? And so then again, after that experience, I went running to my friend Meg going, what is this? And what happened? And she says, that sounds like that might be an Arcturian. And then I started meeting every few weeks or every week a different extraterrestrial. It would be a gray hybrid. All of them would be walking up and sitting next to me and talking, and I'd go running to her asking, who is this I just met? And then she would, when we stopped is when I went and met a reptilian. When I went on a bridge, I met a reptilian because he couldn't sit down on the bench because of his tail. She went, okay, we need to stop. You need to be careful. This is a reptilian. These are things that you need to look after. I went, but he was so sweet. He had kind eyes. He was so nice. And so that experience turned her around to realize all reptilians are not negative. And so anyway, it kept progressing on like that for a few months until I would say it was probably the end of October. This all started happening to me in July, and then in
hang on, can I just back up a bit? So this all started happening to you in July, 2020? 2020 was that?
Yes.
Okay, so you had retired by the time we hit 2020. Your dad had passed.
Right.
You'd retired. So you weren't caught up with all the medical drama during the 2020. You were lucky about that. But mind you, you probably retired from nursing way before that because you were working as a chiropractor, right?
Well, I was doing nursing on weekends to keep up my nursing license. You have to do so many hours to keep up your license.
Okay.
And so I would do that minimum requirement.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, yeah, so you started meditating during 2020 because everyone's, locked in, be quiet.
Right.
And did it happen during your first meditation or did it take a bit of practice? Like how did all this phenomena, like spiritual awakening, happen?
I started probably meditating in March, and then it happened to me in July. And that's when the spiritual awakening, or when the angel showed up. I was already talking to my dad in March and all that time, getting more familiar with being able to see people who had passed. I was even talking to other people about their family members who passed because I could see them. Now, mind you, every time I saw a different extraterrestrial, I was running to my friend Meg going, I know I have a brain tumor. I need to get an MRI. Something is wrong with me. And she would just laugh at me like Karen's doing. She was just laughing at me going, I know you're okay. And I'm just going, but look what's happening. And so anyway, how it progressed from there was, it was in October when I had a mantis being show up in my car. I had finished hiking with my dogs and we had gotten in the car and we're heading home. And a mantis being sat in my passenger seat.
Whoa.
And
can I ask you, when you're perceiving them, when you're seeing them, are you seeing them with your outside eyes, with your physical eyes, or is it happening in your third eye? When you say he's sitting in your car, are you seeing that in your third eye, or are you like seeing him with your outside eyes?
And I'm gonna have to, I see them all of them. So I'm thinking I was probably seeing him with my third eye.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's hard for me to distinguish because I sit in both, whatever, where I'm like changing. Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to know.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Because I do the same when I see spirit. I see them sitting in front of me in a chair, but as I look at the chair, I'm not looking at anyone sitting in the chair, but I'm clearly seeing in my third eye that there's someone sitting in front of me in the chair. Like
right.
So I'm not seeing it with my outside eyes. Some people do see it with their outside eyes. But what did the mantis say to you? I love the mantis. What did he say to you?
Well, we just started talking and I was driving and I stopped at a place where I like to get fruits and vegetables and things at one of these farmer market places. And he was still there when I got back. And the dogs weren't acting up around him. So I, knew he was okay. So then when we stopped, he asked me if I would help them. And I'm going, well, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to help? And he said, we want you to be the communicator between us and humans. And I'm going, how am I going to be the communicator? I'm trying to learn Spanish and I can't even learn Spanish. How am I going to learn all these different extraterrestrial languages? And then I went, okay, I'm assuming it'll take me a couple of years to learn this, but yeah, I'll do that. And the other thing he wanted me to do was to rescue these sick and dying extraterrestrials out of these Area 51 type places.
Oh, wow.
And so I sat there and thought about it and I was thinking, okay, this is going to take a lot of training, a lot of practice, whatever. But I said, okay, I'll do that. You can train me to do that. Well, the next thing, sitting in that seat, he put me in an Area 51 type place where I went in and I was the communicator. And I'm walking down a hallway, seeing all these extraterrestrials and all these cages and rooms and things. And I'm sitting there going, well, why am I here? What happened to the training? And all of a sudden I could start hearing all the extraterrestrials. We were telepathically communicating, but I didn't know what that was at that time. And
wow.
I could hear them talking and I could tell he couldn't hear them talking. And then I saw one that I had met. One of the ones in my parade that I had met was in one of them. That's what I was there for, was to get him out. And he told me to be quiet. Don't let them know that I was able to communicate with them. And I didn't. And so anyway, we ended up getting him out of that facility. It was a whole thing. And that's all in my book. All those.
Okay. I got to find out how you did that. So when you said that you went into Area 51, you saw them there.
Well, it was, I'm not sure that was exactly Area 51, but there's all those places are in the Midwest, all those underground.
We've got the my guides have said to me, there's a lot in Australia. And I said, really, why? And they said, you think about Australia, it's like, there's such a huge landmass and such a small population. There's so much desert. There's so many places to hide. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. Yeah. There's
exactly.
So many
yeah. I've been all over the world rescuing them from.
Yeah. But did you astral travel? Did you project your consciousness? I mean, how did you rescue and what did you rescue? Because you're not rescuing their physical bodies. What do you rescue? I don't really quite understand how all that works.
Well, this is how I explain astral traveling and my physical body. I call it soul traveling. And when my soul can leave my body, and like my physical body has to stay here on earth, and it has to be in a meditative sleep state. And this is how a lot of us travel. My soul leaves my body, goes to the area that I need to go on, takes on another body. Usually it's a younger self of me, or I can take on another, hey, Patricia, or I can take on another type of body. I can take on an extraterrestrial body or some other kind of body, but it's my soul that's leaving and doing that. Now, when I'm astral traveling, which is different, astral traveling is when it's like a ghost of me. Like you can see through it. I can't touch, I can't physically work, I can't eat, I can't taste. When I'm astral traveling, that's what's happening, is it's almost like a ghost to me coming up and going and looking and enjoying or researching. But when my soul goes out, it can work. It takes on a body and it can physically work, touch, taste, eat, do everything. So that's how I explain that. Did that make sense? Do you understand? Did I say that clearly enough?
I don't know how your soul can touch and taste and
my soul leaves in a light body. When you see my body leaving, it's just a white outline of me. And it's just white. It's a light body. That's my soul. And then it goes and takes on another body that can touch, feel, and work.
Oh, I see. So you put yourself into another physical form. Like you put your consciousness into another physical form, like in Avatar, the movie Avatar.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Well, I've heard people say when they've projected their consciousness either through remote viewing or astral travel, that there are people, humans, in those facilities that have the same abilities that can actually perceive you when you're over there, and they shoo you away, like get out of here. Like, did that happen to you?
Yeah, it has happened to me, but remote viewing I put in the category as a controlled astral traveling. So, and that's you can't go touch and feel or work. You're just spying basically when you're doing astral travel or remote viewing. But when your soul body travels, a light body, it can take on the form of whatever you want, whatever. Well, I'll give you an example. When they showed me one time, I went in my light body, I unzipped my human body off and I put a whale body on and I went swimming with the whales. So that is my light body moving and doing these things.
Yeah. No, I've done that with animals, with a bird, actually. I've hitched a ride inside a bird and felt what it felt like. Because, a lot of us say, I wish I could fly. I wish I knew what it was like to fly. Like a lot of us, I had that desire for many years, even since a kid. And I don't even know how old I was when it happened, but it was years ago. I was an adult where I found myself being inside a bird's body and feeling what it feels like to fly. It was so cool. Yeah. So you were like, you're inside a whale's body. That's nice.
Yeah, I've been inside whale bodies, but this time I didn't know what was happening to me because I knew that was me walking down behind this, but I was following one of the guards and knowing what I had to do. And anyway, there's a whole long story with it, how we got him out, but eventually we got him out. And then I was zipped back into my car and the mantis being was sitting there and I'm going, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. Kind of work. So anyway, that was my kind of work that I agreed to do with them.
But Gail, this is a big quantum leap from not knowing anything up until 2020, like not knowing about spirit guides or galactic beings, to like knowing how to leave your body, put your consciousness into another physical form, like that's a huge leap.
Yes, they've been treating me all my life because memories, and I've been regressed back, and it's just I became aware of it at this point in time.
So you shared with me before we went live that you reached out to Barbara Lamb, the beautiful Barbara Lamb, to help you recapture some of your memories. What happened with that? What did you find out with Barbara?
Well, I've been going up in the spaceship and being trained or whatever since I was an infant. I mean, tiny little baby. And they would take us into a room, and I had it was a Palladian lady that was holding me in one arm and a boy in the other arm. And there were lots of like incubator kind of crib things. And they would put me in and hook me up to all these tubes and things. And I would lay there for a while. She picked me up and put the boy in, and they do the same to him. And then the next room, it was almost like it was a bouncy house that it was at her waist height, and they would slide us in like we were a pizza. And I think that was kind of like the recovery room before we went home. And so, and I remember, and because of that, I started remembering like learning how to walk through walls. I can remember probably when I was like 9 or 10 years old walking through walls. And the reason I remember it is because the last wall, I was the only one left. And all the people I was walking through these walls, I was standing there alone and nobody was with me. So there's different things that start flashing back whenever you open up those avenues.
Yeah. Yeah. And also Gail was sharing with me that, when she first woke up, it's only 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of people that could really have this conversation at this level. Like There's a lot of people that talk about mindfulness and meditation and maybe even life after death and maybe even angels and spirit guides. But at this level, like what you're talking about, you're doing, there's not a lot of people that understand this conversation and don't think you're completely
wacko.
Wacko.
As I said, I kept saying, I have a brain tumor. I need an MRI. Something's wrong with me. I kept saying it over and over again as a friend. And I had passed her because when I was doing all this, she wasn't quite understanding all that either, how I was doing it. But she was just going, I know you're okay. She kept saying that. But eventually I ended up working on a spaceship. And I worked on the spaceship. It's called the Ashtar Medical One. And I was a neurosurgeon on that spaceship. And when I started working on the spaceship, I realized that they had trained me all my life to perform those duties, that I had gone from working in the operating room, exactly what I was doing. That when I walked in the operating room on the spaceship, I knew exactly how to work every piece of equipment. It was very similar to what I had done on Earth, but more modern. And so I started removing implants. And then I found a chakra machine, which was exciting. It looked like a big stoplight where I could open up and clean out everybody's chakra. We did a lot of light therapy. And so I started taking out negative implants and started cleaning out chakras and also changing brain waves of these people who are depressed, possible suicidal, these light workers who are going through those issues. Can change the brain waves. Anyway, I was doing all that kind of work on the Ashtar Medical One. And I was still doing rescue missions, and also eventually moved to another spaceship called the Athena, where it was a big trauma center where we did all these traumas, huge things, like huge events. Like the first one was when there was 10,000 children that we were rescuing, white dragons in here. He was helping me. He worked on the Athena. He was helping me with this. And so I've moved around, and I moved to another spaceship after that called the Alphabet, which was a triage spaceship. So I've done all sorts of things. Now, now what I'm doing is rescuing babies and that are hybrids that the reptilians have found out who they were, and now we're going and rescuing them, taking up to the spaceship for safety.
So what babies are they? Human babies? Are they hybrid babies?
I've been very involved in the human hybridization program with the gray hybrids. And on the spaceship, Ashtar Medical One is a hybrid spaceship. It has, it's all types of hybrids. It's not just ones, but it's predominantly, I say, gray mixed with something is what is on that spaceship. And it's also, I was the only human person or human looking person on that spaceship at that time. And that's when I found out that I was a hybrid, because
Yeah.
they said everybody who works on the spaceship is hybrid. And we work on hybrids. And I'm just bebopping along going, wait a minute, I work on the spaceship. What is he talking about? That was a captain. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I found out I was a hybrid. It took me several weeks to absorb that information.
When you're up there on the spaceship, are you in the body that you're sitting in now, or are you in a different body?
Sometimes I'm in the body I'm in now, but most of the time I would say I'm in a body that's in early 40s.
So is it a human body? Like, do you project your conscious into another physical form, into another form?
In the beginning, I was the only human looking one on that spaceship. And they did make fun of me because the first uniform they gave me was designed for all these skinny little aliens. And I had to put this uniform on, and I couldn't hardly move in it. I kept going, let me go back and get some more clothes. And they wouldn't let me. I had to get it on and stretch it. And then they put me into a meeting. And eventually they gave me one that fit. But that first one, because all of them are like little stick figures. They're not used to these human curves.
Yeah. Why I ask, because a lot of people I talk to on the shows have had these sorts of experiences as a younger being, as a younger person, as a younger human being, where they're physically on a spaceship, usually as children, because the environment on ships and the human form is not always, it doesn't always gel. Like, we hold a lot of bacteria, and the older we get, that our physical form doesn't really like being in the environment that's on a ship, gravity and all sorts of variables. And, this started happening to you in your late 60s, early 70s. So that's why I wonder if the human form that you're in is the one that goes up to a ship, or if you're in another form.
When you go up to the ship, you go through a big variety of getting showered, bathed, and cleansed.
Right. Yeah.
So you go through this whole process when you do go up there. So and theirs is not like our showers. I mean, it's like instant. You're done, and can put on your uniform and go to work.
Right. Yeah. Because there's one of my favorite books, The Sober Prophecy. It's about a French Australian man who was taken. The book was first called Abducted to the Ninth Planet. And he was taken in his physical form. He was a younger man at the time, because it was back in the late 80s. And he went through this intense detoxifying process.
Right.
And again, I think there was yellow light and green light. They used light therapy. Mm-hmm. And then they actually gave him a pill which popped him out of his body, and he was flying in his astral form around the ship while they did more intensive detoxifying to his physical body. But they popped him out of his body so that he wouldn't have to go through it and in the physical body. And it was fascinating to me too, because our physical environment is so different to the environment in space or on these ships. It's so different.
Well, that's also what we do with the bodies, like the injured soldiers and other people. We pop their consciousness out of their bodies to repair their bodies, so they don't have to mentally experience it. So we do the same thing in the medical side, as we pop them out of the consciousness out of their body so we can repair it.
So when you're on the ship, you're working as a surgeon. So you're a doctor, and here on Earth, you've been a chiropractor and a nurse. Right. So you've sort of you've got more responsibility when you're on the ship.
Well, yes, I do. Yes, I have a lot more responsibility.
And what is the history with you and them with that? There must be a long history with you doing this, like past lives, before you incarnated into this life.
Well, this is the third planet I've gone and done this on.
Uh-huh.
For the ascension process. I travel with two other people, and I'm the only one that's here in the physical form. The other two are still in their light form. And I'm the one that's here for this, but this is our third planet. But I've always been working on the spaceship. My real life probably is a spaceship.
Right.
Excuse me. And this is just a reincarnation aspect of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, Vladdy's got a good question here. Sorry, I'm missing because you're all talking to each other in the chat, which is lovely. But I'm sort of looking for comments or questions. I see so many interdimensionals when I walk in the, what's Glenn saying here? I see so many interdimensionals when I walk in the forest, perceived by me. Walking meditation sounds doable. Oh, I see you're talking to Millie. Yeah, and so Vladdy wants to know, how long do the missions last, and how much time would pass on Earth? That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Good question. There were different links, and also we had the preparation time, and then in the beginning, my involvement was just a rescue mission, and then you would go into, and then they would allow me to do some preparation and preparing, and I would say the missions, of course, the travel time probably took the longest. Sometimes it could be an hour, sometimes it could be a couple of hours, sometimes it could be 15, 20 minutes, just depending on how strict or how many guards and things were at each facility and what hurdles we had to go through, and also how sick the ETs were that we were rescuing. Some had to have some energy healing before they could even move. So I hope that answered your question. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself. I do that all the time. I forget I mute myself and I start talking away. Have you been on Mr. Gray's show, Experiencer Interviews?
What was that?
Have you been on Mr. Gray's show, Experiencer Interviews?
No, I haven't.
Jan. Oh, well, there's one for you, Jan. Hi, Karen and Dr. Gail, much love from Canada. He's got a great show with only experiences and talking about their story. And yeah, as I say, your story is so extensive. It kind of shocks me because, you only woke up 5 years ago and you've come to know about things that so many of us didn't know about, like, wow, it's just blowing my mind a bit. So yeah, I was reading the comments. Is time different? Like when you're up there on the ships, are you feeling like you're there for like days and maybe only minutes pass on Earth or hour?
Well, for me, I can be up there as much as I want because it's like changing a radio station. Here I am right now sitting here. If you got a question or if they call me up to the spaceship, I can go instantly. I can sit here and talk to you and know what's going on up there. Now,
so you're here and there simultaneously.
Right. But I have to be, if I'm working on the spaceship, I have to be resting here, either resting, sleeping, meditating. I can't be working. I could be walking, driving. I can do all those things, but I can't be physically working, and vice versa. So, whenever, like now I'm doing this interview, I would have to be resting on the spaceship, not physically working on there while I'm doing this interview.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Very, very conscious of what's happening on both.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So what is the message that they've given you about disclosure and how it's progressing here on Earth, like your galactic team? Are they feeling like this sort of, because this information is amongst us, the people that are listening back to the recording and the people online, but that's not a lot of the human population. Not a lot of the human population are up for this conversation. What have they said to you about that?
That's what they have gotten me for, as the communicator between both worlds. So that is actually my job. And I'm not sure why they chose me, except maybe that I'm a blank slate, because I didn't have any of this I didn't have any knowledge of this. I didn't have any background of this, and I didn't have a strong religious background. So I think they might have looked at me. They've been training me all my life. Maybe they were keeping me from learning all these things. Because even when I started awakening and learning about these things, I would buy books and the books would be blanked out where I couldn't read them, or they would be blurred. So I could not even get the information from books. I had to get my information directly from them. But on disclosure, originally the disclosure was supposed to be in 2024. And so it really depends. And they're just waiting us to be ready. To accept, it's going to be a big leap for us to accept them, because we can't even accept ourselves. We can't accept,
Exactly.
So I'm not real sure when they feel it's safe to disclose. I know they're disclosing to individuals. Individuals now, they were originally going to go from top up and come down. Now they're coming to each individual and going up. So as many people as start accepting it and start talking to and start working with them, I think the more that come on board doing that, then the disclosure will happen that way, is my feeling. But anything could happen. I'm hoping it's next year.
Yeah. Well, I suppose disclosure is rolling out, because since 2017, really, they have started talking about it on mainstream news programs.
Right.
Although some people say, like News Nation, some people say that News Nation is not a mainstream program, but they do talk about other things like politics and stuff like that. And there's a lot of there's a lot more disclosure now in the last 5 years, or even since 2017,
Right.
than there has been. But I think you're right, Gail. The guides have said to me, the galactic guides, it's about accepting each other's differences, and all we want to do on Earth is kill each other when we don't agree with our differences.
Right. So they're going to come here and we're going to want to kill them. So
yeah, exactly.
So I think going to the individual, and they do come to individuals, and you do have to say yes, and that you will work with them. And then I think that's how they're doing it now, going to each individual. The more we join together and talk about it, the more it becomes mainstream.
Misha's got an interesting question here. I want to get back to the hybrid program, because I've got a question about that. But what did the aliens, or the non-human intelligence, the NHIs, feel about COVID and its cure that was rolled out? Has that sped things up a bit? I think it has. I was just saying to Gail before we went live, it awakened so many people. But yeah, how do they feel about it?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to totally minimize everything, but everything we talk about and think it's this huge, big deal here on Earth, our politics, it's not that big of a deal for them. They're looking at the universe. When they're looking at COVID taking over the world when it happened, it was kind of letting people have the option of leaving the world before we go into the new world. So that's kind of how I've seen it, is that it was a time and place where we had the option if we wanted to stay and go through this transition, or did we want to leave the planet?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the question was more about how did the ETs feel about it as far as disclosure? Did it speed things up a bit? Did COVID speed disclosure up a bit, or did it?
I think so, because look how many people awakened.
Right, exactly.
Me, one of them, and me being an educator. So I think a lot of people who decided to stay on Earth were awakened, and our voices, and working with them and realize they exist. And the more that open up to that, the more disclosure happens.
Yeah, exactly. So with the hybrid program, you said that you've been involved a lot with the hybrid program. What time is it? I need to do a station ID break soon. What is your understanding of the human hybrid program? Them splicing our DNA with their DNA. What is your understanding? Why are they doing it? What's the outcome?
Survival for both species. We think that it's only for their gain, but it's for ours too.
Okay.
And it also bringing these hybrid children, putting them on Earth, like we've put people, have adopted them. They're in families here on Earth. It also helps us make the transition of being able to accept them when they come to Earth, because right now, if they show up, the instant thing is fear. And we want to kill them. We want to beat them up. We want to run away. We want to do all these things, and that takes over our body. The hybrid children's response is not going to be quite the same. They're going to be more of a heart-heart connection, and they're going to recognize it more, or being used to that vibration, the higher vibration, and will be able to accept it. So it's actually a survival of both species, strengthening both species.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the species that are doing the hybrid program, is that more the sort of gray, what we call the grays?
That's the ones I'm involved with, but there are other ones that are doing hybridization programs. But I'm involved with the gray hybridization program.
Yeah, because I think I've heard that they genetically engineered out a lot of emotional empathy and moved more into logical thinking, intelligence through logic, and they're trying to gain back that empathy. And a lot of starseeds say that they suffer from the empathy that they have, but that emotional component of us. But yeah, I've heard of other, like my family, my mother's family. I'm pretty sure she was a part of the hybrid program. She just looked completely different to the rest of her family. I mean, she still had features of her family. And I feel like she was engineered so that I could do what I do. Like I'm taking on her DNA, and probably Dad was too. But he didn't look so different to the rest of me.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think my mother was too.
Right. Yeah. So they're engineering us so that we have more access to those psychic experiences, psychic abilities, and the ability to be more awake and aware of who we are as spirits.
Well, it's also being able to stand their vibration when they're in front of us, because we have to raise our vibration just to match it, because our first response, as I said, is fear, heart racing, want to run, want to kill them, that kind of thing. So raising our vibration and frequency where it's more on their level, it's going to be easier for them to be here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is fascinating. And yeah, there's so many more books in you, darling one. There's so many more books. Let me just do a station ID break. Where is it? Let me find it. Oh gosh, where am I? Is that it there? I think
you're listening to ATP Media Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
And my guest today is Gail McLeod, who is a ex-nurse, chiropractor, starseed healer, psychic medium, having had an exponential, accelerated spiritual awakening over the last 5 years, connecting to her galactic counterpart. Because as we're talking and you're saying, when I'm busy up on the ship, my body here has to be at rest. So you're occupying, like your soul is occupying, our soul can occupy many different bodies, but you're conscious of your soul or your consciousness occupying 2 bodies simultaneously. So there's one that is living and working up on the ships, and then there's the human body having the human experience here. And so you're moving between worlds, helping them, helping humanity. How do you feel what you're doing is helping humanity? Is it the awareness of them?
Yeah, it's the awareness of them, and that I have the ability to explain to other people what's happening to them. Like a lot of people in this chat are also doing a lot of these things, but they might not have the memory that I have. And, I can go to the spaceship and go, oh yeah, there's Patricia here. Yeah, there's Patricia. I see what you're doing. You're up on the spaceship. You're wondering what you're doing at night while you're sleeping. That's what you're doing. And that helps people, because they've been wondering all their life. Everybody in their family's been telling them they're crazy, or something's wrong with you, and they haven't been able to talk about it. So whenever I can tell them what's going on, it opens themselves up to accepting what's happening and then that is raising the vibration and the consciousness, the whole world at that time when somebody has that realization and accepts it and agrees to work with them.
Yeah. So we spoke about before you rescuing some ET beings that were incarcerated in facilities, in secret space facilities. How do they feel about what humans are doing? How does the Galactic Federation, for experience, feel about that component of the human experience?
A lot of it is they purposely get captive because they want to get information from the facility about the facility. In fact, that was the very first one, was the extraterrestrial that I was rescuing was caught on purpose, and it was for me to go in and I had access to the whole facility, and because I had access, I could come out and map out, tell them everything that's going on in that facility, where everything is. So that was the purpose of that one. And then, of course, there's the ones that are sick and they're not tolerating being on Earth, like the Arcturians. They have trouble breathing when they're here on Earth. They can't breathe our air, and they use a special cream on their body to be able to tolerate Earth's air, but they run out when they're captive. And a lot of times they don't get the proper food, so they start deteriorating from no food. But a lot of times they're crashes. Sometimes they're down here working with us. There's all sorts of different reasons why they might be in captivity.
Yeah. Mish wants to know, do you feel like a different person? I suppose that means from before you woke up to now.
I definitely. In fact, me looking at myself, I'll go, I think she's still crazy. I still go through that. If I was looking at myself and hearing myself talk, I'm going, oh gosh, this girl's on a wild ride.
What does Millie say here? Exactly. I love it when I hear from others. They were with me and saw me, and I will totally confirm something. I was dreaming extra. It helps to connect the pieces. Absolutely. Yeah. What's that? So I'm just trying to get through these comments. Have you met the Ponte? Yeah. What's Mish saying here? Yeah, thanks, Karen. She says, it's okay, we're all crazy. Have you met the Ponte? Yeah, so the Ponte are a race of humanoid-looking Zeta Reticuli greys. They say, don't call us greys. They don't like being called greys. No, they have various stations throughout the Earth, and they live at these information stations. They've been here since even before the current human population, maybe not since humans, but the current, what we know as humans, like hundreds of thousands of years. Have you heard of them, the Ponte? They come from I
have heard of them, but I have never met them or worked with them. Those are not the people yet I have worked with. Doesn't mean I might not work with them in the future, but they're telling me they're working with other people. I don't know who. So no, I'm not working with them.
Interesting. Yeah. And what is she saying here? Proud weirdo, Heidi says. I really think that we have to stop calling ourselves crazy and weirdos. There was this beautiful girl I had on the show years ago. Oh, and she passed. She was young and she passed. But that reminds me of what I wanted to ask you too about the bodies. And she said, don't call yourself crazy, call yourself extraordinary. I'm extraordinary. I think that's the word that she gave me. I'll have to go back and listen to the show. I'm not crazy, I'm extraordinary. I'm not a weirdo, I'm extraordinary. I think that's such a better word than saying I'm crazy, I'm a weirdo.
But I never really thought I was crazy through all this. But I did think I was probably hallucinating with a brain tumor. That's because I'm coming from the medical field. So where my mind, I'm hallucinating. There's got to be a brain tumor. That's where my mind went.
With the rescuing the bodies and you saying some of them were sick. I've had a chat to the dolphins that are in captivity, and they said to me something that I think that probably similar to what ETs would say. They understand that they are not their form, their physical form on any planet, whether they're a dolphin or, wherever they are, and that they can move between forms at will, consciously at will. Surely the ETs, the advanced ETs that are in captivity would understand that too. Like, why would they need their sick bodies to be rescued? Couldn't they just pop out of that body and take on another form and not worry about the sick body?
Well, that's one thing we all tend to do, is we lump every ET in this whole universe into one category. All of them should be able to pop out of their body. We don't know that. Some of them might not be able to do that, but I was so guilty of that in the beginning that I wanted to lump every race in this category. I wanted to make it all linear and all this, make it easy, and it's everything but not. So it's not that easy, not easily explained. So it's just different of every species.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking they're more advanced consciously than humans. And for the most part, consciously, we don't know that we can do that. But then I've spoken to many people like you who know they can do that, not a problem. So,
and so I think you're right on some of them have to take a pill to do that. So I think there's just different avenues on that happening.
It's different levels of consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we were getting, as I said, we were getting the soldiers on the spaceship. It's the first time they had ever been separated from their consciousness, and they were all upset. And, all of them are different.
So when you say soldiers, were they human soldiers or were they non-human?
They were human soldiers.
Okay. And just remind me of that story. You were rescuing soldiers from where? From facility?
There was 10,000 children that were being held by reptilians that were highly evolved children, hybrids that would raise the vibration and consciousness of the world. And the reptilians do not want us to, these type of reptilians do not want us to raise our consciousness. They want to keep us back down and stay in the 3D. So they kidnapped all these children and trying to keep them, and they were torturing them, doing all sorts of things to keep their vibration and their gifts down. And so we had to go in and rescue them. And there were a lot of casualties while we were doing that. And that would be the young soldiers that I'm talking about we were taking care of.
Mish wants to know here, how long have they been using humans? Pre-Egyptian times? How do you mean by using humans?
I'm not sure. Are you talking about using humans like me?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm not sure how. I don't even know how to answer that question. I actually don't know.
Thanks. This is one of your tribe. Says this is a wonderful conversation. How do you say that name?
Her name's Diana.
Oh, Diana. Thank you, Karen, for such thoughtful questions. Yeah, well, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat too. We're grilling Dr. Gail today. Oh, put myself back on camera. Yeah, it's fascinating how all this works. I think for the most part, from our human linear time, physical perspective, we don't understand the different levels of consciousness, the different dimensional frequencies, the different frequencies that we can engage in, and yet we're all engaging in them all the time. We are both human and spirit simultaneously. We are both human and galactic simultaneously. We could be a human who's totally forgotten and living in drama and depression, and we could also be a spirit guide helping people from the other side. Like, we are multi-dimensional. And
and that's what Carl, that's what I keep saying. My next life, I want to be somebody's spiritual guide. I want to be the one going tapping them, going, no, I told you not.
Well, Gail, you're probably already doing that. They're saying they're confirming, yes, you're already doing that. It's interesting as we come up with things we want to be. My guides have often said to me, I've often said, in my next life, I'm going to have lots of children. They said, you've already done that. In my next life, I'd like to be an architect. They said, you've already done that. So often a lot of the things that we desire in this life and maybe think, we can't have it in this life, we've already lived in other lives. Like, you've already done that. You've done that as a human. You've done that as a ET. You've done that as a spirit guide, teaching. A good friend of mine, a teacher, someone I had on the show many years ago, Dr. Michael Tamora. First time I put him on the show, I recognized him as one of my teachers in spirit. Like
Oh,
he wasn't a teacher on Earth, but he was a teacher when we were in another dimension. And I recognized him. I'm like, oh my God, you're one of my teachers on the other side. And he goes, yep, that's right. So we're here and there simultaneously. I think that the linear concept of human life, we forget that. And I think that what you're explaining about the experiences that you've become aware of is you've become aware of who you are in your multidimensional aspect. You know.
They did show me a few years back how everybody has like this example, like these two halos above their head going in two different directions. Each one has all these different color balls on it that represents your different lives. And it's rotating all the way. One's rotating this way and one's rotating that way. And as you're walking, one might overlap, and that's when you remember that life. You look at the clothes the person's wearing and you go, oh, that's a past life, but it's the life that's happening now. It looks like it's in the future, the clothing you wear. Oh, that's a future life, but it's happening right now. So that's how they showed me about all your lives are happening simultaneously. It's just rotating which one you might jump into and look at.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think somebody I had, Naya, Yvonne Gallard, who has since left her body on the show many years ago. And I first saw her talking on YouTube. She had no views and nobody subscribed to her channel, you know, just a few, just a handful, talking about time. She'd had an amazing NDE. And she was talking about time as you experience it outside of linear time. And I knew that she'd had an amazing experience. So I put her on the show and she became one of the authors in my book, Awakened by Death. And she talked about it being stacked. You know, time is stacked, like we see it as linear, and so you can access all time by sort of moving your consciousness up and down through different timelines, time periods. Yeah. Like think of a stack of books, or you can think of I often think of Netflix. When you bring up all the different movies you can watch, they're all there. You can tune into any of them at any time. Yeah, it's kind of like our lives too.
Example. Yeah.
Tell me, we went straight into the galactic experience when you had your awakening, but the first thing that you experienced was your connection with your dad that had passed.
Right.
Like, as someone that was newly awakening to the multidimensional aspects of consciousness, surely you must have had a lot of questions for him, like, what's it like to be on the other side? What are you doing? Did you quiz him when you first contacted him?
I didn't quiz him about that because our conversations were like he was still here in the physical world. We'd sit down and talk about family, money, all those kind of things. So our conversations was just about here and now, like he had never passed. But, you know, and when I started seeing him, I started seeing other people's loved ones that had passed. And I do still see that whenever somebody's in the chat, somebody might be coming in and they were having a message and I have to share that with them. But, and also during that time, I was having to help people transition into the other life. So there's all sorts of steps that I've gone through. I've done channeling. I've done the mediumship. Yeah, I just went through all that very quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm listening to you. I'm just looking at all the chats here. They're all chatting amongst themselves. So,
everybody for being here.
Yeah, it's a great audience. There's almost 50 people chatting away online. So when you had the awakening, I suppose, you sort of rushed through the life after death thing. I mean, did you, as a nurse and a chiropractor, believe in life after death and that you could communicate as a medium? Because a lot of people say that mediumship is, BS and that you're making it all up. But you must have already had an open mind.
I already had an open mind because I had already been connected, because I always knew when energies were in a house, like a ghost, and I would tell everybody, the dining room, there's a lady in there that she's not really happy about us being here, so don't go in there and bother her. And I would tell the guys that were even working on the property not to bother her, to disturb her. And of course, everybody would go, oh, what are you talking about? You're crazy, kind of thing. But then when they'd go in there and the ceiling fans going all wackadoo, going, okay, we're going to stay out of that room now. But that's kind of how it, wasn't serious at that time. And you kind of think that everybody does the same thing or feels the same thing. So I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. And Mish wants to know, when we pass, do we all go to the same place?
My personal opinion, we all go to the same spot, but some of us have to go to school, to this building that I see people going in, that I have to look at their lives and revisit and learn some different things. But my most interesting one that I pass, I always talk about that I have the high maintenance people who need to pass or that need help passing. But there was one lady who didn't want to go because she couldn't smoke on the other side. And I kept saying, I smell smoke on the other side all the time. You can smoke on the side. They will never take your cigarettes away from you. And it took a lot. I have
a girlfriend like that. I reckon she's staying here just
so she could smoke. Yes. And now this lady she was not going to give up those cigarettes. And,
that's hilarious. That's when you get attachments. People that die that are still really attached to their physical, what do you call them? Like drinking, smoking, and then they attach to a smoker. I'm pretty sure she has a lot of smoker attachments on her, like, let me get my hit of that smoke through you, so I'll attach to your energy field so I can have that same nicotine.
Well, when she did pass, and when I talked her into passing, there was a man standing on the other side. As soon as she went through, he had a lit cigarette and gave it to her.
Oh, that's hilarious. Hilarious.
I was so happy that happened because I was sitting there, I smell smoke on the other side all the time. I know you can smoke, and having to convince her that. So, I've had quite a few interesting experiences like that. And that was early in my journey too.
What's Heidi saying here? When my mum passed, I already knew I wouldn't hear from her for at least 6 months. She had to pass Afterlife 101 and possibly 102.
Yes, you're probably right, Heidi, because I do think they go to school. I think when they look at their lives, that there's some things that they have to sign up, go, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. But I do not believe there's hell at all. I think going to that school might feel like it sometimes because of what they're having to face.
Oh, that's a good question, especially for me now, Vladdy. Getting back to the afterlife, a lot of religious, like the Hindu and a lot of religious of old knowledge talks about how important it is to raise your consciousness before you pass, because when you pass in the same level of consciousness that you have. So if you're more heightened consciousness, there's not so much, afterlife 101 or 102, as Heidi says. There's not so much schooling to go through because you have more awareness of who you are as multidimensional, of who you are as soul, as spirit. But a lot of people pass with that same thought forms, and they have to detach from those thought forms or have healings. Some people have called them healings, or be washed, rinsed of the negative energies or the negative addictions or whatever you call it. And I don't think time exists as it exists here, but that process can take time, but not time as we understand it. Yeah.
Right.
So Michael Tamori used to talk about that too, that, passing with a more heightened consciousness is more beneficial to your experience after you leave the physical body. And that is talking about, because I've had not a broken bone, but I've had bruises lately. Any tips for instant healing of the human body from little bruises all the way to broken bones and cuts? Yeah, because you're the galactic surgeon, galactic nurse.
Well, those things you can manifest. When I do a show once a month, it's called the Solaris Healing Center. And the Solaris Healing Center is a center on a star named Solaris. And it is the center that heals our angels and our power animals and all these different things. And it's a blue light when you walk in there. So there's a lot of light therapy that happens. And so I do that once a month, and I'm allowed to bring that energy to that chat to help healings. And I have an assistant, and his name is called Medical Mike. So people that are used to coming on and to that show with me, they are now able to connect with him directly and have help from healing. So I would suggest that you can focus and try to manifest going to the Solaris Healing Center, or bringing a medical mic down to help you for some energy healing. And they're pretty strong and magical.
Yeah. Well, I have the ability to heal myself instantly of small cuts and bruises and things like that. But here's what the guides have said to me about this. They said it depends on the amount of resistance you have at the time that you do it. So, for instance, I fell over recently because there are builders doing work on the construction and they didn't put any safety things up, and I hurt myself. And I'm holding on to so much, not anger, but like how stupid I forgot that they took away, because I had a paved outside my sliding doors. It was paved and it was all level, and they took that all away, and it was a 2-foot drop. And when I went out there to rescue one of their boxes that was blowing away in the wind, I forgot that they'd taken the pavers away. So I went crashing down, right? So I'm beating up on myself for being stupid, and I'm beating up on them for like not putting more safety measures up. So there's the resistance, and my healing has been really slow. So the more you can be in acceptance of what is. I did it too a few years ago. I fell down. I kept looking at our outside stairs. They got really moldy. And I kept thinking, we need to get that, fixed, because someone could fall and break their neck. Someone could fall and slip. I kept thinking someone, and that someone was
you.
I went down to get the post, and as I'm going down the stairs, ass over tit, and I'm like, and because I'm beating up on myself for being so stupid, because I knew that was going to happen, the healing was really slow. But when you hurt yourself, like cut yourself or bruise yourself, in that moment, if you can be in complete acceptance and say thank you and be in complete love, like, you can heal instantly. And I've done it a million times, but in the times that I don't do it, I heal slowly, like really slow. You can really slow down the healing process. Like, there's a normal healing process that you can slow down by your anger and beating up on yourself and anger at somebody else. Like people that have car accidents and they blame the other person, right, and then they're injured for the rest of their lives, and their bodies never heal because they're holding on to that victimization, that resentment. So healing is all about the vibration we're carrying at the time. You can also ask the galactics to come and help you, but we're responsible for the vibration we bring, right, to the healing.
And we use a lot of light therapy up there.
Yeah, years ago, back in 2002, I went over to see the now disgraced Brazilian healer called John of God, and they had the crystal light beds, and they said that this was ET technology that was given to them. And I have a lot of friends that have the crystal light beds. So they're, like you were talking about, clearing out the chakras. Mm-hmm. So they have these crystals, and they're big sort of like quartz crystals, and then they put a different light that line up with the chakras, and you lie on a bed and there's different lights that align with your chakras. Uh-huh. So this was ET technology that was given to humanity. When you talk about the light therapy up on the ships,
because it looked like a stoplight on the side, and then when they're washed out the chakras, so when I see them washing it out, I feel like they're in there going, it's like a washing machine that you're seeing the front of it, and your chakras being washed out, and then they put new color in there. So it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah. It's so cool. So let's talk about, what time have we got left? We've got about 20 minutes left. Let's talk about some other healing modalities that they use up on the ships. What else have you seen that is not here on Earth that could be?
Well, I would say it's called, it's not the transition room, restoration room up on the Athena, where I was talking about we separate the consciousness from the person's body. Uh-huh. In that room, when you walk in, you see cloning bodies to your left, and then you see these big tanks that look like whirlpools. They got ladders that you crawl up, and the body's in there in a fetal position with these tubes in it, and the consciousness is above. So you can talk to the person that's up there and looking at the body and give them an update on how it's being repaired and how it's going. So before they go into that room, they have an option, and which is called the triage room. The triage room, when a person comes in there, you have the option to repair your body, to get a clone body, or to go to a new life, new planet, new whatever. So whenever if you decide you want a new life and a new body, you go into the transition room where you have counselors who help you go into this new life or new body, whatever it is that you decide to do. And then the other is the restoration room where they go in and they have to decide, what do they want, a new body? Do you want to repair this body? Do you want a clone body, or do you want to repair this body? And that's what's in the restoration room. So that's what happens. This is the Athena, that this big spaceship can handle a lot of people coming through like that. So that's the technology there. Now, when I was on the Astro Medical One, I was working a lot with removing implants. And the reason for removing the negative implants is I was usually getting these people who were depressed and had anger outbursts, things like that, that were that were being created by this implant, because they were being controlled to make them that way, so they cannot use their gifts. They cannot ascend. They can't raise the vibration around the people around them. They can't assist others. So removing those implants immediately helped them move to the next level. Now, they had to do a lot of work themselves to keep themselves at that level. They'd have to do like grateful lists. They'd had to wear special colors. There's a lot of work that they had to do even after that implant was removed. And it was so the negative entity that put the implant in would not be interested in them anymore. They had moved on to where they couldn't be controlled anymore. So,
okay, so who are the negative entities? Are they
usually it's
are they human?
Well, no,
human?
it can be, but in most of the time I have found it draconians are usually the ones. And I don't want to say all draconians are bad, because there are some good ones, but I would say that's the ones that we are up against the most.
Okay, so there are implants that have been put into human bodies to downgrade their awareness or psychic abilities. But Whitley Strieber talks about, you know who Whitley Strieber is? He was the guy that wrote the book Communion, which was the book that came out with the grey alien face. I don't actually think it was a grey skin, but the big eyes. And it came out 25, 30 years ago. I don't know. And so many people had spiritual awakening just looking at the cover of the book. They were like memories return. But Whitley says that he has an implant that helps him remember more. Like it's the opposite.
Right. There's positive implants.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have that positive. I have one too.
You have them too, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of us have this positive, and it's a direct connection to these people that give you the information. And those are not the ones we remove. Those are ones that are like, yeah, keep those there. You want those. Those are good. So yeah, there's two different ones. We're just getting rid of the negative ones.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I've spoken to quite a few people on the show that say they've got multiple implants that help them. I had one lady on the show. Yeah. She said she's got them throughout her whole torso, and they help her do different things. They sort of enhance her ability to astral project, to be more aware of psychic, whatever, telepathy. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I've got any physical implants. I think that it is a level of consciousness that helps you do that. But I do know that my DNA has been tweaked, or at least Mum's was, in order to. But really the whole DNA, like when you asked me, Gail asked me before we went live about my story, and I said I've been doing this forever. And in my 30s, after I'd doing a full-time naturopathy course, opening a furniture homeware shop, getting married and have a baby, after all that, I decided to do energy workshops. And one of the first energy workshops was like, somebody said, you want to do a DNA course? And I'm like, what? And they're trying to explain it to me. But it was about consciously upgrading your DNA so that we have more awareness. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he called it a DNA course. It wasn't the name of the course, but that was the outcome, which we can all do now. And as you say, with people like you, you can just be in somebody's presence that his DNA has shifted, and your DNA will acclimate, will like come more back online. Yeah. So you can do it mechanically, or you can do it consciously. What have the ETs said to you about the conscious evolution of humanity?
Well, they're trying to help us because they would like to have us to have a seat at the Galactic Federation. They would like us to have a voice in the universe. Right now, we're so involved in just our little world and what happens on this planet, that we don't even think about the ramifications of what we do on this planet has effect on other star systems. And they would like to make us aware of that, to bring us to the Galactic Federation and be aware of what we're doing does affect them.
Exactly, yeah. Leslie wants to know, what do you mean by draconian, and what was the other common source of implants? Thanks, Leslie.
Well, the most common one is draconians. It can be others. It can be just any negative ET or negative human. I haven't been as much involved in what the humans can do, but maybe the military, some experimenting. Anyway, what my job is to remove those negative ones. I don't really get into where the source of it has come from. My job is to get rid of and heal that person.
Right, so you don't ask too many questions. And Glenn said he used to assume that all implants were always negative and they were feared, but it's fascinating to know that there's good ETs want to install beneficial hardware. Yeah, exactly, Glenn. Some beneficial hardware. Let me just install some beneficial hardware.
Direct information. It's like what you're saying is it allows you to be around their vibration and get information directly from them. And
absolutely.
Definitely, Karen, I would think you definitely would have an implant, a positive implant.
Who's that, Glenn? Or me?
You.
Oh,
you.
Me. Yeah, maybe I do. Yeah, maybe. Sorry, I'm just looking through these questions here. Stained glass. I can't tell if they're talking to each other or talking to me. Okay, here's another question. Vladdy's full of questions today. I love it. Is it true that we were supposed to have the 12-strand DNA?
Well, I'm not sure about what we're supposed to have. I'm not exactly sure what that question means, but I mean, we do have so much DNA and strands that they can't identify what it is. And we know that's right. DNA, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of talk like we have a 2-strand, we have a double helix, a 2-strand DNA. And for years, scientists have been saying that there is this shadow DNA, and they couldn't understand what it was. It's like, it looks like a shadow when they use their instruments to look at the DNA. But that was the 12-strand DNA. That was all the way back when I was in my 30s, Vladdy. That's what the course I did. We spoke about reactivating the dormant strands, what the scientists had called junk DNA.
That was before my metaphysical time.
Yeah. Well, they're still talking about it now. People are talking about the 24-strand DNA, like the more strands of DNA that we have active in our physical bodies, the more awareness and abilities we have as being aware of who we are as multidimensional beings, the ability to, leave the body at will. And it's all about reactivating what has been called by scientists as junk DNA. It's not junk at all, like the doctors love to tell us, to limit it.
Well, that was part of the Hybrid Children
program,
though, when I was bringing these children to human parents, and I'm going, they will never know that this is a hybrid baby. You can take them, have them blood drawn, you can have any kind of work, any diagnosis, anything. They will never know. They have not discovered how to identify this yet.
Yeah. And when we do have the DNA, the junk DNA, will come back online, Hollywood is obsessed with superhero movies. Like, there's so many, especially with children too. They have superpowers. They can, freeze water and throw fire and do all this stuff, right? And in our future, that will be our reality as these DNA strands come more online. Those what are called superhuman powers will become a normal fact of consciousness, that we know how to manipulate physical reality, or what we call reality, with our consciousness, and have dominion over things like the elements, fire, water, even teleportation. I can't wait. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, Gail, but I can't wait till teleportation is a reality. That we can teleport all around the planet. It's all part of it coming back online.
Right.
Just going through. Agree, Karen. Thanks. I don't know what you're agreeing for, but Heidi, but thank you. Not sure of winning the lotto. I reckon not the thoughts of winning the lotto. I reckon by that time money won't even be a thing in our world, right? Money is just such a
No,
third dimensional
But
construct.
I've never seen money being exchanged any of these spaceships ever.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Is that your pussycat?
I'm not sure why she's crying. That is her. Her name's Dirty Harriet, and she will be a little mouthy sometimes.
Dirty Harriet. I think I put my cat out before. She's very mouthy. She's meowing every morning.
I think she is outside.
So before we go, what else would you like to tell us about our galactic family, our galactic friends, and what they want from us, from the people listening who know that they're part of maybe the hybrid program? They're also connected to their galactic counterparts. Their psychic abilities are expanding and awakening. What do the galactics want us to know?
Well, I think they're wanting us, as I said, they're wanting us to take a seat at the Galactic Federation. So this awakening of everybody, and for us presenting information to trigger people to open up to these things that are happening, and to make it okay for them to talk about it themselves. I think that's an important step for us, to have this cooperation and collaboration with them. Even though they're already here and we are having some collaboration with them, it would be nice to have it as an open collaboration and us be side by side, talking and living among each other, which they already are, but we just don't know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exciting times on Earth as we remember our galactic connections. And yeah, I often think about what it's going to be like to live in a space reality, where the reality of flying out in space and visiting other planets is, it's like getting on a plane going to France. We can get on a ship and go and visit another galaxy or a planet, or interact with different species from throughout the cosmos, and how much they've got to teach us. They always tell me that the amount of information they've got to bring to this world will completely and utterly transform this world in every way, shape, every way. And that for the most part, the people that think they control the world don't want that change, because they're making too much money from oil and gas and the way we educate, the way we produce our food, the way we transport each other around the planet, the way we use energy, electricity. And
well, also they use their hierarchy, whenever, because they become small when we're joining with the universe, they become extremely small. So they don't want that.
Right.
And that's a big issue also.
Yeah, they lose their power, especially the medical profession, which has been so dominated by one aspect of what is called health, sick care, really, not healthcare. Right. And they've got so much to show us. As I say, like 25 years ago, those crystal light beds were being rolled out in Brazil. How many of you heard about that? They said the Galactics gave them this technology. How many people heard about that? 25 years ago, they were rolled out. Like, are they putting them in hospitals? No. Like, no. Yeah, especially with the healing.
Right.
All righty, we've got 7 minutes to go. Anything else you'd like to say to us, darling one?
Well, I think people would like to know about you, because there's a lot of viewers that are coming from my channel that don't even hardly know your history. So can you tell them, because we talked about a little bit behind the scenes, but they haven't heard it.
Yeah, well, I woke up when we started asking questions as a child, because Mum died, and she used to come to me and tell me she didn't die. And like that started happening at 16. But before that, I was asking a million questions. Like, how can you be born in sin? That doesn't make sense. Like you, Gail, I wasn't born into a religious family. Most Americans I speak to on the show were. They have such a history of religion in their family. It always surprises me what a grip religion has on, especially the United States. I haven't found that as much. I'm sure that happens here in Australia, but not amongst the people where I grew up. In fact, I went to a convent, a Catholic convent. I wasn't Catholic, long story, but all my Catholic girlfriends, predominantly the majority of them that are still friends with me, just totally turned their back on the whole Catholicism. One became a staunch atheist. because anything happened to her, but she just thought it was ridiculous and just didn't make any sense. Like the whole religious thing for her didn't make sense. So, but I find that in the States, the religion has had such a grip on our consciousness, on our fear,
And
on
that's exactly where you got it. It's the fear.
God punishing us in some way. Yeah.
Because
Where there is no punishment. But
right.
yeah, not having that thick religious conditioning kind of helps you be more curious. What helped me be more curious and ask a million questions, and who are we, why are we here, and connected to my spirit guides. Well, the spirit guides were always there, but found out about them in my 30s because I did those energy healing courses, and we learned to talk to spirit guides. And I'm like, dang, I've been talking to them all my life. I just called it my common sense.
Yeah.
But the thing about me is the guides say over and over and over again, there's nothing special about me. Every single person this is happening to, like in the Conversation with God books, when Neil put those out 30 odd years ago, and people, interviewers would say, what makes you so special that God would speak to you? And he would say, well, God tells me that he's not speaking to me. He's speaking to everybody. There is no he, but this higher intelligence that we call God is speaking to everybody all the time. It's not who are they speaking to, it's who's listening. Like who's listening.
Who's listening and who says, yes, I'll work with that.
Exactly. Who's listening and taking, exactly. I think that with you, you're probably getting inspiration or spiritual guidance from your galactic mob and your spiritual team all your life. But as you say, you were busy. You had a lot to think about. You were working as a nurse, like working in hospital systems. You got no time to think about anything, and working as a chiropractor. Yeah, you just didn't have that time to really listen. So,
I did. And also, I think it guided me through all that. Like they wanted me to do the nursing. They wanted me to do the chiropractic. And then even when I had my spiritual awakening, I met somebody who did energy healing, who taught me in 6 weeks about energy healing, that I combined all those things. So they have had me step by step. I have followed what they wanted me to do and unknowingly followed what they wanted me to do.
Exactly. But I have to say, my galactic experience is not as extensive as yours. Your story is amazing. Like I have full access to my galactic guides. I can, they come to me as a stream of consciousness that I reverently call the mob. So they're outside of identity, but sometimes I get collective, like I'll speak to the Grey Collective or the Arcturians. Like I can pick out different collectives, but for the most part, I speak to a stream of consciousness that they tell me inspires all the spiritual teachers here on earth. We all tap into that. You could call that God. It's not personal. It's not an identity. It's not a dude. It's not a he. It's not a she. It's a bandwidth of intelligence, of information that anyone can tap into. It's like anyone can tap into it. But if you want to pull out from that infinite intelligence different collectives, and then you can come down to like talking to a person or a soul or a personality, like a dead person. But when we reemerge back to the non-physical world, we understand that we are one with that collective, and that this game on earth of identity and bodies and all that we've been talking about, human body, ET body, is just the game we play to have this type of individualistic experience. Yeah, but that we are connected to the all.
I was going to say my second book is how I met an alien, is about my visiting different planets and stars. I'm an interplanetary liaison at that time, where I'm bringing back the information to the Galactic Federation about that planet, about the people, their habits. And so it's different ETs that I'm meeting, different stars, different planets that I'm going on, different things that are happening on those. So that's my next book, is those experiences.
That sounds fantastic. Amanda says, did I call it the Bob? I think it's hilarious. No, I reverently call my guides the mob, because when I was young, Amanda, I asked who my spirit guide was, thinking linear, thinking singular, not understanding that you're talking to the universe. And I got this image of this mob of people, like this faceless crowd and there wasn't any identity there. There was just like thousands, like when you see, and You call
I
that a
did
mob.
that same thing early on. I saw thousands. I assumed they were my family. At
Yeah.
that time, I assumed they were my family.
Yeah. But really, when I heard Esther Hicks talk about stream of consciousness, I thought, oh, that's such a better name than the mob. But I very reverently call them the mob. But I think in the Law of One books, they call it I can't remember the words now. What did they call it? Ra called it a memory complex. A memory complex. Anyway, the way they talk about how information gathers through attraction and becomes like you can tap into this.
Remember and identify the mob, whatever you're trying to remember. They go, resonate as well.
Darling one, we have run out of time. Thank you to your mob, to your team, to your galactic team for being online. Thanks, everyone. I'm sorry I didn't get. You were all having such a great time talking to yourself. Laddie says thank you. I didn't get to sort of pull out many of your questions, but it's been fun. We have to do this again. It's been fun, and congratulations for doing the work you're doing. It's amazing. I'd love to hear you. Before we went live, you were talking about getting you in contact with Emery Smith. So Emery, if you're watching, I'd love to hear you and Gail have a conversation. That would be very cool.
What I'd like to talk about is the surgery, since we both had that surgery.
Yeah. But darling one, thank you so much for being on the show.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me, Karen, and thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, thanks everyone. The jackhammers. Big love. Bye for now. Ciao.